Hey everybody, it's Dan here at Pilates with Dan with your next tutorial lesson. Today's tutorial is about the exercise known as the roll-up. And the roll-up's a really interesting movement. It's the second exercise in the traditional mat work, straight after the 100. And it can be challenging for many people. Quite often in a beginner's level class here, it'll be introduced in the third or fourth lesson, depending on how everybody's going, and it can be something that people challenge is a challenge for them for a long time. So today I want to go over the basic movement and maybe give you some options to use when you're practicing at home to help improve your roll-up. Now before we get going, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can keep up to date with all the tutorial lessons we have here at Pilates with Dan. And also below in the comments I've actually got the instructions as given by Joseph himself. So any of our exercises that we do which have a traditional sort of background, and we've got instructions from Joseph, we put them in the comments below. Okay, so have a read, see what you think. Our versions might be slightly different, but it's good to compare always. Okay, so the roll-up exercise. So the idea here is that after you've warmed up with your 100, you get your spine into some big flexion movements. And what I think is really cool about this is that in my body at least, it changes every day. So some days I'm a bit stiffer, some days I'm not. So it's one that it's a good sort of check-in on how you're moving, particularly with me, my lower back. Maybe you'll see it now, I don't know yet. So I've done a little bit of a warm-up before we get started, but I haven't done the roll-up yet. Okay, so the idea here is that you're going to be laying down on your mat, supine. Okay, so that means on your back. Now, as far as your foot position is, Joseph, you'll see in the instructions, Joseph says to flex your feet. I don't mind if it's flexed or pointed, but ultimately in the more advanced classes, this is where you're going to, okay? Okay, so the other thing that he asks us to do is bring your arms right back without your back arching. Now, if you find that when you bring your arms back, your back arches and there's space, you can see my hand here. Okay, if there's space in your lower back, that's maybe not for you yet. Okay, so you want to try and keep your back on the ground and bring your arms back as far as they can. Now, from there, the idea is that you bring the arms forwards, draw the chin in, and come all the way up. Okay, now, some people get their head right onto their legs. If that's you, that's good for you, but not me. So you're going down and then all the way back down with control. Now, I always tell people that on the way back down it needs to be slow so that if I say stop at any time you can and control it. Okay? We don't want gravity to win. Okay, so that was the roll-up. I'm pretty happy with that roll-up today. So that's kind of what you're looking for. Now, normally in a mat class, we do about 5 or 6 of those before moving on to the next exercise. Common things that happen. Okay, so one thing, because it's a fairly large movement, there's different ways our bodies can sort of compensate is one word, maybe cheat's another word, but I don't like the word cheat. But adapt maybe for the movement, okay? So, and if you've been in any classes, you would have seen this happen, okay? So one thing that can happen with people is that they get to this point and they're stuck, okay? So if that's you, I'm one of you, so that's okay. That happens sometimes, right? The other thing that can happen is as they come up, a leg or both legs come up. That I don't actually mind. The reason being is that this movement that you're doing, the roll-up, incorporates some of the hip flexor muscles. It has to, because you're flexing the torso relationship to the hip. So you have to use your hip flexors, right? So it can simply be that one day, or maybe many days, that one leg is tighter than the other. That's okay. All right. Don't worry if your leg comes up. Continue coming up. Over time, that will get better. Okay, so just keep practicing that one. If, however, you're like me sometimes and get a bit stuck, you can use what we call it the magic towel technique. Okay, so what you need is a little towel. We have these conveniently Pilates with damn ones, they $10. All you need is a little towel, something that you use for your exercise routine. Okay, and you roll it up, and it needs to be fairly tight. And what you're going to be doing is placing that in the small of your back, just above your pelvis. Okay, and you lay down. Okay, so what this does is it gives a reference point for your back to push off of. Okay, so that when you come up, you've got some forward momentum already. The biggest inhibitor with the roll up for many people is a tight back. So what the magic towel does is compensates for a tightness in your back. I still want you in a class situation, even if you've got a tight back, I still want you doing the roll up. So this is an option, and it's very smooth and very easy. And a lot of people exclaim, oh, I can do this now. That's why we call it the magic towel technique. Okay. Now over time, of course, I don't want you to use this as a crutch. This is merely a device to help you get to the next stage. Over time, what we want you to practice is that you reduce the size of the towel down a little bit over time until the towel is flat. Once it's flat, you're pretty much ready to just do your roll up as per normal. Okay, so that's one option to help you achieve a roll up, and it's inexpensive and totally free, basically. But you can buy these for $10 at our store. Okay, so that's one option. Okay, if you've got a tight back. The other option, if for those with the flying legs, so the legs lift up, is we can actually use a strap. Now in the studio here we don't have the full mats that Joseph had, and Joseph's mat had a strap at the end, and it's a really cool device to use. And it helps you find that connection a little bit more. Okay, so in the studio we've got a Cadillac, we've got reformers with the straps on, and we can do that in here. Okay, at home, it's a touchy one. So we want you to improve your roll up. So I want you to practice. If your legs are flying up in the air, you can use a strap. But sometimes all you need is just your shoes on. Okay, so just that extra weight at the other end can help you stay down. So try it with your shoes on. And the other way to try is if one leg is consistently coming up, then use the other leg to push it down. Okay, so what I mean by that is that if, for example, as I was coming up, my right leg kept pulling up, place my left leg over the top of the right leg, and I squeeze the inside thighs. In doing so, I'm just reminding these muscles here that they need to work evenly, okay, with the rest of my body. Okay, so the idea here is keep squeezing those legs as you come up and over. Okay, it can help. Try switching them around, see if one leg is better than the other. With that, quite commonly it will be. Okay, so that's another option for the roll-up. Another one would be simply using a prop, such as a magic circle, a weighted ball in your hands. Sometimes by distracting the mind with something to do with your hands, you forget about how hard this exercise may be. Okay, so the idea here is that you're pushing the magic circle, and as you're coming up, especially as you get to your stuck bits, or the bits that fly up, right, you squeeze the magic circle more as you come forwards. I'm not sure why that works, but I think, as a hypothesis, I simply think it's just a distraction for your brain. Okay, so because the magic circle doesn't really weigh that much, so it's not giving you any extra leverage to work with. It's just giving you your brain something to think about other than doing the roll-up. The other thing that we quite commonly do in a beginner's setting, if the roll up's not achievable, is to focus on the roll down first. Okay, so the idea there is that because for many people this is a new sort of movement, the idea of actually coming down nice and slowly is challenging. Okay, and finding that scoop, allowing our seat to go towards our feet. Okay, it's hard. And some people will get to a point where they can't hold on anymore and they fall down. Okay, they're the people that that's appropriate for. So over time you build up the strength, stamina, control, and confidence, which is always very good to build up, in getting back down to the floor. The reason that the roll up for me is so important is it's a chance to help us age better. Okay, so it's one of those exercises that may seem challenging but also pointless, as in how is this applicable to my everyday life? Think of yourself in your late 80s and 90s and the ability to get out of bed in the morning. The ability to get off the floor if you need to. These are the sort of things that this is helping with. If you haven't done this movement for a long time, it's going to be hard. But that's okay. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the studio sometime soon.